I think that the first people who should read this book are our brothers and sisters in the United States, because their threat is in their own house. The devil is right at home. The devil himself is right in the house. And the devil came here yesterday. Yesterday, the devil came here. Right here. Right here. And it smells of sulfur still today. This table that I am now standing in front of. Yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, from this rostrum, the President of the United States, the gentleman to whom I refer as the devil, came here talking as if he owned the world. Truly, as the owner of the world. I think we could call a psychiatrist to analyze yesterday's statement made by the President of the United States. As the spokesman of imperialism, he came to share his nostrums, to try to preserve the current pattern of domination, exploitation, and pillage of the peoples of the world. An Alfred Hitchcock movie could use it as a scenario. I would even propose a title: The Devil's Recipe. As Chomsky says here clearly and in depth, the American empire is doing all it can to consolidate its hegemonistic system of domination, and we cannot allow them to do that. We cannot allow world dictatorship to be consolidated.
On the surface, Venezuela is a Catholic country. But when the Spanish arrived here 400 years ago, they forged a society of many religions and races, including African slaves who practiced voodoo. Once a year, one offshoot of this mix of beliefs draws thousands of Venezuelans to a mountainside. Most are Catholics, but they also heed the call of the spirits. Walter Gomez has been coming to Mount Sorte since he was a teenager. He belongs to the cult of Maria Leonza, a group influenced by African voodoo. Legend says Maria Leonza was the daughter of an Indian princess and a conquistador. Conflict between the Spanish and the native peoples drove her off. At Mount Sorte, she and other runaways took up a new life. To her cult, Maria Leonza has magical powers. Once a year, her spirit and others return to Mount Sorte. Through spirit mediums, they heal illnesses and solve problems. And for a weekend, Catholics become voodoo worshippers. Tonight, Walter is offering his body as a vessel. He begins a possession ritual.
To get ready to go in a trance, there comes a time in which I feel like everything shuts down and everything stays silent.
Just as in African voodoo, the spirit demands blood. But here in Venezuela, the purpose is to purify Walter's body.
The blood that you shed cleans your body the way Christ did when he was crucified.
The spirit possessing Walter Gomez demands more blood. The instrument is a bicycle spoke adorned with a Venezuelan flag.
¿No sientes dolor?
You don't feel pain. You don't feel anything. Absolutely nothing. Not pity or love or caring, nothing. When you're in a trance, you lend your body, but you're no longer there.
Fully possessed, Walter can now help people by reaching out to bad spirits in them and curing maladies. This man wants to atone for pain he's caused his father. In the presence of the spirit, he can let loose his grief.
My father is suffering for my fault, and you have to help my mother. They're suffering for these people. Why do they do that? Never. Never. Look at me. My grandfather. Why?
Waves of intense emotion pass over him until suddenly he springs up, relieved. Finally, after hours of being possessed, Walter's spirit returns to his body. He has addressed the needs of many people tonight, and while he still feels no pain, he leaves with very real scars.
I understand because it's a sacrifice to heal someone, and it's worth it. It was worth it to be caught, to be able to give.
His spirit's work done, Walter can relax and celebrate, watching as other spirits, using other bodies, continue their efforts.
Well, there's quite a beginning to the Talamanca Review. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce McDonald, and this is, in fact, the Talamanca Review. I'm just fresh out of a wonderful sauna. As in there, I can only stay in about 20 minutes, and then I'm just like slippery with sweat. These bush saunas are just the dope, man. Like, I'm telling you, holy cow. You get a bucket of water there in a little cup, and you just put it on top of the stones and the steam. Oh, you could pass out, man. But it's so refreshing, so purifying. So tonight, I've titled the podcast, Importing the Devil. Okay? And it is yet another attack on Christianity, and especially the Christianity of the First World, which is a viable religion. Okay? So I find myself oftentimes contradicting myself. And I say, well, how do I feel about this? You know, how do I feel about contradicting myself? And, you know, the truth is that anybody who speaks long enough is going to contradict themselves. Okay? There's a great line in the beginning of Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. You know, he says straight up in the poem, epic poem, operatic poem, I think it's about 100 pages long. It's very difficult to write a poem that long. He says, do I contradict myself? Very well. I am large enough to encompass contradiction. So a lot of times the contradictions in my message come about in context to what I'm comparing and contrasting. Okay? So when I compare Christianity to what I know God to be, Christianity is primitive and superstitious and, quite frankly, lazy. Okay? Because it instills in people, very few people live Christian faith. They just sort of go, especially Catholics, man. They go through the sacraments and, you know, and then they just operate like they've bought an afterlife insurance policy. You know, the way people with a good insurance policy might drive their vehicles recklessly, right? And this is, by the way, I've had a lot of Jewish friends in my life because I'm very well versed in religion and mysticism and now occultism in the last 5 years. And Jews really are seekers. Like they really are curious about the nature of reality and the governing forces. And so when they meet a Gentile who has transcended Christianity or their birth religion and is operating outside of its parameters, but still, very, very, very much in the pursuit of the divine, they find that quite intoxicating. And so, so anyways, long story short, when I talk to my Jewish friends and I say, okay, well, what's the deal, man? Why do Jews hate Christianity so much? And one of the main reasons is serious Jews, like Orthodox Jews who practice the religion, they believed that to attain grace, there's an incredible amount of work, an incredible amount of discipline, a high number of rules that have to be followed. And it's insulting to them that people think that they can be born into this religion, Christianity, get baptized, and think that they have the divine. And I share that offense with my Jewish brothers and sisters, okay? Now, Christianity is changing. There's no doubt about that. People are getting much more serious about Christianity now. I would say Candace Owens, as a convert, is a very serious Catholic. I'm sure she prays morning, afternoon, and evening. I'm pretty sure she fasts on Fridays and does all of the rules and all of the work to be in fulfillment of the sacraments of the Catholic Church, okay? And it's the same in every religion. I don't mean to just pick on Christians, it's the same, right? The people who are seriously involved in the pursuit and acquisition of the divine, of grace, of the presence of the divine, of mystical insight into how reality functions. These people are fanatical in their practices. They will do their spiritual work, 2, 3, 4 times a day, 30, 45 minutes. You add it all up. It's 3 or 4 hours of spiritual work a day. You're only up 16 hours a day. And so that's, 4 hours is a quarter of your day devoted to the divine. And some assjack comes along and says, well, I've got the divine because I'm baptized and my pastor told me they dunked me in a river. That's one of the reasons that, and also because they got blamed for killing Christ, obviously, right? So that's another big thing. But in this context, I'm comparing Christianity, which is the belief in a loving God that governs everything, and the principal characteristic of that God in the modern definition of Christianity is love. This is a much higher spirituality than what we're importing now. Okay? Now, the idea for this show just struck me, I think, yesterday. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do this show. I didn't do it yesterday. I did a different show. Oh, just my I'm Back show with Chris. But this one's been on my mind for a couple days. I'm walking around up here in the rainforest at my Earthbag complex, and a little voice in my head says, hey, Bruce, why Haitians and Venezuelans? What do those two cultures have in common? And then, boom, light goes on in my head. They're both heavy, heavy black magic cultures. And when I say heavy, I mean a significant percentage of the population is involved in those religions. Now, what distinguishes those religions from Christianity and Orthodox Judaism that doesn't degenerate into Kabbalistic magic? Well, when you're seeking God, you're looking to have a relationship with spirit. Spirit is the animating force of all life. It really doesn't have a personality. When you're involved in these lower religions, you're basically engaging with spirits in the plural, which means non-physical beings, and it's almost uniformly human beings, okay? Dead human beings. That's what these religions are working with, Palomayombe, Santeria, Voodoo. They say they have gods, but those gods would be entities on the astral that are using psychic predation for longevity in astral life. Because astral life is not eternal. I think the astral body lives 1,000 to 3,000 years. Okay? Now you can extend that. I mean, the physical body lives 80, 85 years. But we know now, just by what's going on the planet, that life extension is here, and it's been here for a while. You know, one of the more interesting life extension stories or life renewal stories I have heard in the last few years was the fellow who was, I forget his name, he was 94 years old. He authored a book called Selected by Extraterrestrials. And Kerry Cassidy formerly of Project Camelot interviewed him. And you'll have to forgive me. I find names harder to remember the older I get. I don't know if that's some form of senility. Chris could be right that just having gotten COVID, I've experienced a cognitive decline. My perception is as sharp as ever, or sharper than ever. But the mental faculties, like remembering names and stuff like that. But you know what? This is actually worth looking up. So let me just look this up and tell you who it is. Selected by Extraterrestrials. Yeah, here's the book. Comes up on Amazon right away. Selected by Extraterrestrials. My Life in the Top Secret World of UFOs, Think Tanks, and Nordic Secretaries. And it's William Tompkins. Now that I hear the name, it makes complete sense. You know, when I mention these things, you might want to take a look at these interviews because, you know, the Talamanca Review is not for everybody. I find that, and that's fine. You know, like I said, I don't make a living at this. I do this as a form of service. And that's a good thing to accompany a spiritual life, to be of service to people. And I'm really trying to focus on that in the last third of my life, both in terms of being generous and growth-oriented with my family here, who need a lot of opportunities, my nieces and nephews, you know, college courses, things like this. I'm trying to be really giving in the physical sense, and the Talamanca Review represents my service in another level, which is sharing some of the insight and perspectives I've gained over a lifetime of spiritual practice and a decade and a half of serious inquiry into who or what controls this world. Capped as it is by direct relationships with several of the most knowledgeable people about what's really going on this planet that you're ever going to meet. And John Edmonds and Robert Wiegand are both examples of that. So I'm sharing it with you. Now, Tompkins said, it's in his book, and he said it in the interview, they have a pill now, okay? You take this pill, and you regress to about 24 years old, and you can be 85, 90 years old. It will physically regress your body to 24 years old, and you will commence your life again. Same body, same genetics, so you will be a 24-year-old you. So if you're 84, you will go back 60 years, and you'll have a 400 IQ. Now, this is going to sound crazy, but I've wondered sometimes if these figures we're seeing on the world stage now are not products of this technology. And here I'm referring to people like Elon Musk. Okay? Who knows? But this has to do with the alien intervention with this species. Pretty much everything going on this planet is alien. All technologies for consciousness and everything we've been taught has been given to us by extraterrestrials. Angels and demons they exist, and they're part of the original cosmology here. But the more dominant influence on us has been the extraterrestrials. And now that I say it, I'm not sure that angels and demons as they're described in our scriptures really exist. You could certainly meet beings who fit the bill, like an angelic being that is radiating light and love, comes to give you a message or something like that, and the opposite on the demonic side. And of course, the other anti-aging or life continuity program is the cloning, which I don't talk about that much on the Talamanca Review, but it's rampant, and it's been rampant for decades. Decades, okay? there's a lot of people cloned out there now. And when people joke about it, you should take it seriously. It's just little things like they asked Jack Black one time if he was going to do a sequel to Jumanji, and he said, well, I feel obliged, And, when a movie makes a lot of money and they want a sequel, he said something to the effect of, well, they just kill you and the clone does the sequel anyways. And a lot of times, and by the way, Jack Black is a total insider, okay? If you think these Hollywood people aren't insiders, do a little research. I'm not going to waste time in my podcast. Do a little research on who Jack Black's mom was, okay? So they've got the reverse aging and the heightened IQ, and they've got the cloning now. So this idea of longevity is everywhere. Now, circling back to what I started with, why is America being flooded with people from countries that practice these dark spirit religions? And spirit religions are always transactional, meaning the spirits give you something, but you have to give them something. And that's what the Tatas and the Godfathers and the voodoo priests never tell you, okay? And they lie. And, like a year, 2, 3 years into an initiation in one of these religions, you made a mistake, okay? Now, a lot of times you can get out of that mistake by transferring it to somebody else, right? So it's like buying a dog and deciding you don't want a dog. Well, most people are not just going to walk it out to the woods and run away, or drop it off at the side of the road, or drop it at a shelter. Most people will put an ad in Craigslist or some similar classified and say, hey, look, I've got this Cocker Spaniel, 3 years old. I love him. He's a great dog. I can't take care of him anymore. My land, and somebody takes the dog. It's the same thing in these spirit religions. Once you have a relationship with them, it's forever, in the body and out of the body. Okay? It might not follow you right to reincarnation, but I think it does even into reincarnation. I don't think it's forever. It might stay with you 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 generations from when it started. And people are getting more and more savvy about this now. Okay? You've got people who specialize, Christian ministers who specialize in breaking Masonic curses now. Okay? Because a lot of these bloodlines are cursed. A lot of these Jewish bloodlines are absolutely cursed. Okay? Now, when you have these relationships, you have access to information other people don't, because the spirits can tell you things. Okay? They can tell you, literally, pick these lottery tickets or invest in this or do this, and you make money. Because they can see a little bit into the future, okay? They're not, the time space they live in on the astral is pre-physical, and it's not as linear as the physical. So they have knowledge of the possible outcome in the future, and they can share that with the people living in bodies that they work with. Now, your first clue that you're not dealing with high spirits is they want association with body. They want alcohol. They want tobacco. They want to get a blowjob. These are what these spirits want. I'm not even joking, okay? They come into your body and they feel the pleasure of being physical again because they miss it, and then they vacate your body, or they don't vacate your body, okay? But these kinds of practices with spirits and stuff can lead to profound imbalance, schizophrenia, all kinds of things. So the first question is, why invite all these people in? And the second question is, why drop them into communities in concentrated numbers? Why 700,000 Venezuelans deposited in one section of Chicago alone? Okay, let me just check the population of Chicago here. It's a curious question. I want to get an approximation of what percentage of the population that is. The demographics of Chicago show that it is a large and ethnically, culturally diverse metropolis. It is the third largest city and metropolitan area in the United States. Chicago was home to over 2.7 million people in 2020. But that's just the inner city Chicago. The way these cities work now, there's a bunch of suburbs around them that become part of what we call the amalgamated city. And so it's really probably about 5 or 6. What is population of, I'll just say, Greater Chicago. Okay? But anyways, it doesn't matter because the Venezuelans were dumped right into downtown Toronto. So 700,000 people in a population of 2.7 million as of 2020. Okay? Again, it's like the city version of what they did to Springfield, Ohio. Okay? This is not an accident. Okay? This is psychic warfare, spiritual warfare, economic warfare. Okay? What kind of a moron planning the distribution of Haitians or Venezuelans would concentrate them like that? 20,000 in Springfield, Ohio, which has a population of 56,000. Okay? You're looking at 35% of their population changing in a very short period of time, 1, 2, 3 years. And you're bringing in a culture that knows how to live together from the land that they left, Haiti. Same thing in Colorado with the Venezuelans. Same thing in Chicago with the Venezuelans. And what else do these two cultures have in common? Exactly what I said at the beginning of this podcast. They're both absolutely steeped in black magic. Let's take a look at voodoo now.
I took this photo in Haiti during the celebration of Day of the Dead. In one moment, he threw a body outside from the top. He was dancing with the body. He's in a voodoo trance in this moment. I'm Hector Retamal. I'm photojournalist for AFP, Agent France Presse. Currently, I'm working in Shanghai, in China. In the past, I was working in other countries like Haiti, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica. I took this photo in Port-au-Prince. This is a voodoo ceremony during a protest. We can see bones here, bottle of rum, because when they light the fire to the wood, they threw rum. After that, people will start to dance around the fire. I think it was the first time I saw the bones during these kind of voodoo ceremonies in a protest. I took this photo in Haiti during the celebration of Day of the Dead. Many people go to the cemeteries to make voodoo ceremonies. This man went inside the tomb. I stayed outside waiting for him. In one moment, he threw a body outside from the tomb. He was dancing with the body, lying with the body on the ground. He had his face with a white dust. That means he's in a voodoo trance in this moment. He put again the body on his shoulder, and the spine of the body broke. He threw the body to the ground. When somebody starts to be in trance, other ones put white dance in the face to show this person is in trance. She's connected with the spirit, with the Gede. This is the name of the spirit. They are connected with the ancestors, with the family. Some people in trance, they make ceremonies with making sacrifice to animals. The voodoo is part of the culture of the country. It arrived to Haiti from Africa with the slaves. It's the religion of the country, it's part of the music, it's part of the art of the country. It's so different than our religions or different religions in other countries. For some people, it's black magic. But it's important to separate it. This is not black magic. It's a different culture. When I heard the first things about COVID-19, I went to Wuhan. In the train, I remember a woman asked me many times to return to Shanghai because she said, it's so dangerous, why are you going to Wuhan? I was trying to explain that I'm going there to take photos. And she said to me many times, return to Shanghai, it's no safety, return to Shanghai. I took this photo in Wuhan during the last week of the lockdown. I was trying to show the life of people in Wuhan during the lockdown and after. He's wearing gloves too, masks, these special clothes. Yeah, so everything here is talking about prevention of the virus. how many people are? Two there, and him, no more, and everybody were inside. I was a bit afraid to catch the virus because I was inside a hospital. Maybe I was talking with people with the virus. I took this photo in Wuhan, the day when the lockdown finished. There are medical staff from Jilin province. They are returning to their province. The medical staff from Wuhan make a ceremony to say thank you for your help. A lot of them were hugging. She was crying. They are crying too. After taking photos in the airport, I went to see what happened around the city. I went to check the river. Many times I saw families go to walk there. Some people were to play. In this special day, I want to know if the city is returning to the normality. And I saw this man, it's an old man flying a kite. So for me, it was so interesting how the people this day was returning to their normal life slowly. When I saw this, I was feeling a bit hope. AFP asked me to be the photographer in Nicaragua, so I went there in 2011. My assignment there was covering news, political things, everything what happened there. I took this photo in Managua, Nicaragua. They celebrate this before the activities for Santo Domingo de Guzman, who is the patron of Managua. People ride bulls, trying to be long time as possible on the bull. The people around try to be far away from the bull because when the men go down, the bull try to catch everybody. So
far away on a sacred mountain in Venezuela, black magic is practiced by tens of thousands. They believe that trance possession can radically improve lives. These extreme rituals unleash the inner spirits of warriors and rebels.
On the surface, Venezuela is a Catholic country. But when the Spanish arrived...
No, I kind of got my videos jumbled up there a little bit. But you get the general point, right? Now, Christianity is, in my opinion, because these are just opinions, I don't want to offend anybody. And by the way, I've known practitioners of almost every religion in the world. Okay, and you just meet them, right? And I think Christianity, if practiced well, is and the general goal of seeking the spirit of God, the essence of God, the Creator, the life force, is a much higher pursuit than these lower black magic practices. Now, why? Well, think of it like this. We are all spirits, okay? We are all individuated spirits and souls, and we've been in this physical game for a long time, beginning in minerals and coming up through all the life forms until you get a human body. And the purpose of life, when you become a sentient being on a planet, is to become spiritual through matter. And there's a reason it has to be done while you're incarnate. I'd rather let somebody else explain it. I don't mean to leave it hanging like that, but it's a whole podcast unto itself, okay? Suffice it to say that being in a body and having the discernment of a mind and the individual focus of the body and looking out through the eyes and being individuated with that way consolidates your connection with the divine when you make it from a body. Whereas when you make it from the astral or the causal or the mental, it doesn't have the same efficacy. It has to be done in a body. So we come here into matter to go back to spirit and consciousness. What the voodoo and the black magic priests are doing is they're going into the low spirit world to improve their material existence. You understand? It's like an inversion of the spiritual principle. And this is why it's considered vile by people who pursue God and seek to represent God on the planet. I myself don't necessarily find it vile. As a general rule, I don't judge anything unless it deliberately hurts people against their free will. So if you're snatching up children and sacrificing them, if I catch you, I'm going to slit your throat if I can get away with it. And I'm not even joking. And nobody will ever find your body. Okay? But unfortunately for them, they've never crossed paths with me. But I would just straight up kill. If I knew for sure, I would just straight up, not right away, not in an emotional state, but I would plan their kill. I would plan to kill them. That person does not deserve life anymore. And I would quietly do it, and I would off them. And I've never done that, so I don't want anyone to think I've got like a body count behind me or anything. But if people want to experience, like, let's say you don't believe anything, that it's all a bunch of mumbo jumbo and it's all horseshit. Well, having a demonic encounter or a voodoo encounter would open you up to the fact that there's life beyond the body. And that's the beginning of a spiritual life. And I know many people who've put a toe into black magic realize that non-physical reality and life exists outside of the body. They were able to realize that, and then they consecrated themselves to serious spiritual practice. But they needed the proof first. So you could say that these religions offer that proof, and that's a good thing. But the truth is, most people who go into these religions they're just looking to ramp themselves up or to become powerful or something like that. Now, let's look at it karmically. Okay? What happens to an individual or a community or a group of people that gets steeped in black magic? Okay? Now, the living practitioners will tell you, oh, it's made me a millionaire, it's made me a billionaire, it did this, it did that, and they'll say it's all good, it's all good, it's all good, but they're not seeing it in the long term. They're not seeing it within the karmic whiplash, which might come in their next incarnation. Okay? They're just not seeing it. But that stuff always, always, always comes back on you. There's no way around it. It's going to come back on you, okay? Now, what it generally does is it induces poverty. You will go through tremendous and that's why all these voodoo tatas and everything are why does this religion take place in the poorest countries in the world? Okay? So, which brings me to my point, why are they importing so much of it into America? Because the goal is to break America. The goal is to impoverish America. And it's just another aspect of what I would call the war on America, okay? And it's really nonstop at this point. It's economic, they're collapsing the currency, it's... I got to be careful. I don't want to get blocked again. I think you know what I was going to say, so I don't even have to say it. They're getting us into needless wars. We've given away most of our ammunition already to Ukraine. If we got into any kind of serious conflict right now, we wouldn't be able to defend ourselves very long because a lot of the ammunition is already gone for small arms and light arms, you know. So there's that. They're collapsing the food supply. And in tandem with this, they're bringing in millions of people from countries that have been devastated by abuse and black magic, okay? The first video I played was Hugo Chavez, the former leader of Venezuela, he called George Bush Sr. the devil at the United Nations. People laughed at him. Not so much anymore, okay? And Hugo Chavez, of course, was the first native leader of Venezuela. He's of native blood. He comes from a tribe in Venezuela. So, and as far as I can see, he wasn't that bad a guy. He had socialist leanings. What are you going to do? Some people believe in socialism, okay? I don't think it works, but I think his heart was in the right place. I think Maduro is a lot worse, right? Black magic is rampant in Venezuela. I have Venezuelan friends, and they'll tell you, just as when you make Haitian friends, they'll tell you the same thing. that, black magic and voodoo are absolutely rampant. And now we're importing it into the United States of America in very large numbers. And of course, these people are being brought in and distributed by who else? Catholic and Jewish Family Services. So go figure, okay? So this is what's going on, and it's not going to change anytime soon. Let's just watch this last one here on black magic.
Far away on a sacred mountain in Venezuela, black magic is practiced by tens of thousands. They believe that trance possession can radically improve lives. These extreme rituals unleash the inner spirits of warriors and rebels. Practices from Africa, Cuba, and the Caribbean are as mixed as their blood. Though 90% Catholic, most Venezuelans practice some form of faith healing, Santeria, and even voodoo. And while this may seem bizarre and primitive to our eyes, these rituals have a very real impact on Venezuela and world politics. Hugo Chavez grew up with these rituals and knows how to harness their subversive power. He appeals to cultists to ignite his revolution. This includes non-Europeans, mixed races, and the dispossessed. Venezuelans understand this. He speaks directly to their heritage. This is the story of faith and politics deep inside Venezuela, and how President Chavez invokes black magic to extend his anti-US agenda throughout Latin America. He calls this his 21st century socialist revolution.
To get this.
There you go, black magic and socialism, okay? Now, one of the things that made our culture in the West great, and it's always had real negative elements to it, right? Going right back to the Bank of England, the East India Company, and all of the exploitative usurping of resources and taking over of other countries that we did. I mean, obviously, I'm not endorsing that. I'm not saying that's good. But generally, the people, through the study of the Gospels, have been uplifted because the Gospels are very powerful, okay? To meditate on the Gospels and to try to live by the Gospels your whole life is very, very powerful. It's a very, very powerful spiritual exercise if you can do it, if you can really do it. And it is the opposite of black magic and voodoo and all of this stuff, is that you become, you get into what I would call the abundance frequency when you enter into a consciousness of selflessness. You see how reality has all these dualities built into it, right? So selflessness, selflessness is the frequency of abundance. So the more selfless you are, the more abundance you will have delivered to your life. And the selflessness is the spiritual practice. The more selfish you are, and black magic is probably the most selfish of spiritual expressions, the more abundance retreats from you. Even though you'll get what the spirits promised you, but there's always like a fish hook on it that catches you and screws you up somehow. It's always spoiled fruit. It looks beautiful when you pick it up, shiny and ripe, and you bite into it, and it's rotten and has worms inside. That's black magic, okay? And it creates poverty where it's practiced, okay? So you take me to any place in the world that is steeped in poverty, and I will probably be able to find abundant black magic there. It is the religion of choice of the poor. okay? Just like buying lottery tickets. Now, lottery tickets, when looked at from the perspective of the rich, are a tax on fools. That's what a lottery ticket is. You're buying lottery tickets every week, your whole life. You're never going to win. You're never going to break even. People do win, but chances are the vast majority of people who play the lottery will never win. So it's a tax on fools. It's a tax on stupidity. Okay? So why are we importing the devil and all of these devilish practices, right? Which are permitted, but why? Why stack a bunch of Venezuelan gang members who are undoubtedly doing black magic rituals and probably human sacrifice? According to Bukele, when they finally got around to cleaning up MS-13 through the martial law there, they found all kinds of evidence of black magic going on in MS-13 and human and baby sacrifices, okay? And you find it as well in these places like Venezuela and Haiti. And it's very difficult to let go of once it gets into you, right? And once you get used to practicing it, it's very, very difficult to let go of. Most people can't get out of it for whatever reasons, and they just keep practicing it. So this is just yet another example of how everything is being directed towards the destruction of the West. And in Europe, it's not much different. All of these Africans are coming from countries steeped in black magic as well, okay? And so they're trying to impoverish those countries as well, okay? So if anybody wants to call in, now would be the time. It's 864-810-1039 or Seen That Tinker 1, and we can have a chat. But the core political infrastructure in the United States now, like Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, they're all demonically owned now. I would say that Kamala Harris is a living voodoo doll. She's not in her body. She's there, but she's so open and so flaky that she can just be used by any external force. She's got no centeredness, no morality, no consistency. She's got to be the flakiest person I've seen enter politics since Justin Trudeau, who's equally flaky. And again, this is all part of a mockery ritual. We're being mocked. Okay, this is satanic mockery. We're going to give you this idiot to rule you, and you're not even going to know that they're an idiot. Just let me bring you back in there for a sec, Chris. 1 sec. Yep, there we go. Okay. Hi, Chris.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Let me make sure everybody can hear you and, more importantly, see you. Yeah.
Hello.
Can you not hear me?
I can hear you, but you're a little muffled.
Oh, something has happened here. Hang on a sec. I don't know why this just...
The curse.
I don't think it's that, but... yeah. Oh, there you are. Okay, I see you. I was wondering where you were, but you're up there now, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just get bad audio from you. It's weird.
Can everybody listening to the show hear me okay?
Sure they can.
Yeah, if it's just you, I'm not going to worry about it. And I see my audio input capture going at its normal level, so I know that the listeners are hearing everything fine.
Yeah, there's something wrong with my side, I guess.
Yeah.
I was just, when you're talking there, I was just thinking about old P. Diddy and all the trouble he's gotten into, and
oh yeah,
all the revelations that will come from this will be amazing. It'll be, or he'll be Epsteinized.
I don't think they're going to be able to kill him. There's no way they can do that twice, man. There's no way. I mean, but who knows now? I mean, they keep taking pot shots at Trump, and now I'm hearing reports about people becoming very ill at one of his last.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a directed energy weapon or food poisoning or something like that, but that's not normal.
Something went really wrong, yeah, and it was only on one side of the stage, right?
Yeah.
It's really weird, really weird.
Okay.
It just gets worse and worse each stage. It's this crescendo that's just building up. And for those of us who see it, it's like watching some kind of Disney film.
Yeah.
You know, the Kardashians are involved in all this.
Yeah.
And of course, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this stuff out, you know, when you look at these people.
No.
The whole rap industry was built upon, you know, crack cocaine profits.
Mm-hmm.
They had to put their money somewhere, right? So they put it into hip hop. And, you know, even old Rick Ross, he's still around. You know, we've got saw a list of private jets of all these guys today, and he was on the list, right? Private jet.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know anything about black magic? Do you have a comment on today's show?
Well, yeah, you know, the voodoo, this dispossession thing, I can really relate to it because of the, you know, the drug addiction that I went through. It was like a possession. And, you know, if you kind of shift it off to the side a little bit and you look at what's going on with the people on the streets in America, it's not much difference, right? They're being taken over, they're being possessed, they're being zombified.
They are.
And it's happening in front of all of us. And we're just...
Yeah. Yep.
Nobody wants to see.
That's another thing too. You could look at that as an aspect of the black magic, which is the extremely potent drugs that are on the street now, like fentanyl and stuff like that, and those are all death rituals as well. I mean, I think the cartels are deeply into the black magic now as well. At least in Mexico, I've been hearing those rumors for years. And you know what this is all leading up to, right?
Yeah, it's probably going to lead up to a rather serious kind of social change, which will erupt. It's going to erupt at some time, like a volcano. It's just building and building and building, and then it'll pop. And then whatever's left after that can pick up the pieces and learn their lesson, right?
Well, I was referring more to the Third Temple. So the Third Temple will be the first metaphysical or occult Hegelian dialectic we've seen. They've all been rational and three-dimensional up until here we go with the IBS again. Yeah, so they'll all it's so what will happen is that this sort of supernatural stuff will begin to proliferate, and then the temple will get built, and it'll all just sort of get nullified, because that would then be the black magic embassy of the world, right? And then the simple-minded will fall into the trap that these are God's chosen people, when really all they've done is an astrophysical Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution, and that's what's going on now. Okay, that's an aspect of it. So, but there's nothing to do but to play it out. You can't fight it at this point. It's like trying to stop a train, when you're just a human being on the tracks. You get out of the way. The train, you can't stop that train. So we just gotta follow this through to its logical conclusion now, which is a number of years out. Yeah. Like this is all going to play out in the last part of my lifetime. It's going to be quite fascinating to watch, but when it breaks, okay? Now, Now, let me be clear. These rituals and these blood offerings and tobacco and alcohol and sex to induce the spirits in these rituals, it is the very definition of necromancy, and it is prohibited in the Bible and the Torah. But at the same time, it is possible to communicate with the dead. I mean, I've done it a few times in my life. I don't go looking for it, but it just sort of happens, and it's never for material gain. It's always for spiritual purpose or spiritual reason. I know people who can communicate with the spirits in a way that is just unbelievable, and they don't have to do anything, right? It's just their natural state. They can communicate with the spirits around in any circumstance. So that's kind of interesting to see.
They're tuned in.
They're tuned in. Well, if nobody else is gonna call in, thanks for calling, Chris. I think I'm gonna wind it up for tonight, unless a first-time caller wants to call in, and I'll just wait a couple more minutes.
Well, I don't want to let you feel so alone there on the mountain.
I'm never alone. I had a great sauna tonight, man. It just fantastic. I love the sauna now, man. It's like a daily ritual. I take a sauna every day. And I think the fire saunas, where you actually have a fire in the sauna room, are the real saunas.
Yeah.
I think, all this fancy stuff, the technology, my analogy is my sauna is the real sauna in the spiritual sense, the way tobacco is really a medicine, but cigarettes are a poison. Sauna with fire is a medicine to heat it, and then, but when you get in...
And it's built with intention.
Say again?
Right? And you built it with intention.
Yeah, it's all built by me too, yeah. But when you get into the infrared panels and everything and the electricity, that's not really a sauna. It's got to be the fire, right? Mine is almost like a sweat lodge. It's just, but nobody here really wants to try it. My wife tried it once for 10 minutes and she said, "Yeah, it's very refreshing." But it's just, I mean, your whole body is soaked in sweat, man. Like it's coming out of every pore. Your forearms, your biceps, your face, your back, your chest, your stomach, your legs, your groin, your buttocks, your shins, your calves. Like everything is just exuding perspiration, and it just kind of cleans you out, right?
That's what I miss about playing ice hockey, is because I would, I'd lose 5 pounds in a hockey game easy.
Really?
Just sweating it out, yeah.
Yeah, you sweat a lot playing hockey, which is bizarre because you're in a cold arena, right?
Yeah, it's very cold. Yeah. When it's very cold outside and you're all soaking wet from sweat, it can get pretty cold.
Yeah, hockey's really yeah.
If you're on some lake or river, frozen river.
Yeah. All right.
Well, all right, man. Thanks for having me.
No problems, Chris. Good night. There goes Chris, ladies and gentlemen. There goes Chris. I think that's pretty much the Talamanca review for tonight. I can't think of anything else I want to say, but importing the devil. It's not really the devil. You know how I feel about the devil. I wrote the book, The Devil in Us. But, it's just like, why are we doing this? Why is the first world importing all this stuff? But you know why. It's all part of the same agenda. So I'm Bruce McDonald, and this has been the Talamanca Review.